Kia ora tātou.
He's jealous of me. I've got more cuddles than him.
Just open up there, just swipe the camera. So I'll get you to do karakia. Kia ora tātou, nau mai, haere mai, and welcome to Rangitāne o Manawatū committee meeting for the 6th of August 2025. Kia ora, warm welcome to everybody, and I'd now just like to ask Wiremu to open with karakia.
I say, Mr. Mayor, I'm not used to this. Rangitāne is used to being exactly on the spot, a few minutes late, but we'll extend grace. Inoi tātou, he honere korori ki te atua, he manganong ki te whenua, he whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Hanga ki te atu ngā kahau, I roto I tēnā mātou, whakitongi te waru tapu he awhene tutu he mātou, ake, amene. Tēnā koe he te rangatira, I kui mai, koruma, a iwi ngā whā, tēnā koutou katoa. If you hear me mumbling a bit, I've had a tooth out today. So I'm still alive to see. Oreira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, kia ora. Thanks, Wiremu. Now, I'm just seeing in terms of our welcome order of business here, just to acknowledge that the meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. In terms of health and safety, our normal procedures, unlike the event of hearing the alarm, we'll leave immediately via the fire exit, the entrance you came in. We will then evacuate the assembly area, which is the clock tower, and tomorrow the square. Toilets are at the far end of the link span. Facility is a non-smoking and vaping facility, and you can do that outside the building. Again, unlike the event of needing a defibrillator, that's located outside the entrance to the customer services on the ground floor. Any incident, please report it to our committee administration. For those officers that are speaking, just for people online, if we perhaps just read your name and your title in the first instance. Right, we'll go to number 2 on our order paper, which is around apologies. And I have an apology there from Councillor Rowley Fitzgerald. Are there any other apologies? No? All right, we'll look, I'll look that the committee receives those apologies. I'm happy to move that. I'm a seconder from the Deputy Mayor, thank you. There's no other comments. We will vote, please. I invite you to vote on the screen. Green is for yes, red's no, yellow is abstain when it comes up. All right, could you vote, please? This is not working. Okay, we've got a few issues there. We might just, well, hold on, we'll get the tech correct because this is going to happen the whole meeting. So what we'll do is we'll vote again. Could I just ask if we can sort out Wiremu's, and we'll vote again, please. Apologies there. Apologies for apologies. Just vote green. Okay, we have landed Houston, so that's 9 votes for, none against. Thank you. In terms of additional items, there are none. Declarations of interest, if any. I haven't received any. I don't believe there is any around the room. No. Public comment. I haven't received any public comment. Confirmation of our minutes, number 6, which is on page 5 of our papers. And that is around recommendation to the committee that the minutes of the Rangitāne or Manawatū committee meeting of the 2nd of April 2025, part 1 public, be confirmed as a true and correct record. I'm happy to move those, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Are there any matters arising to those minutes? Okay. Councillor Dennison will second that. Thank you. Are there any matters arising to those minutes? There being none, we will vote, please, to accept them. And that is past 7 votes for and 1 abstention. We're missing somebody. Danielle. We might just do that vote again. My apologies. We're having a few technical issues. Sometimes the show of hands is easier. So we'll vote again on the minutes, please. Okay, that's better. 8 votes for, 1 abstention. Thank you. Okay, we move through to number 7 on the order paper, and this is around Te Motu o Patoa, Civic Marae and Cultural Centre Anzac Park Program Update. I just invite Kathy Deaver-Todd, our Manager of Parks and Reserves, Warren Warbrick, and I think Steve Bramley, our Program Director, is here, but he's online. Welcome. Page 9 of our papers.
So thank you, members of the committee, for the opportunity to present this paper. Interestingly, we haven't been at the committee since the 2nd of April, but plenty has been happening, and we've had 3 PSG meetings in that time. We've had confirmation of $1 million worth of external funding, and we have also had confirmation that our application to the RIF fund is now sitting with the Minister. So there's been a lot of activity underway. One of the major milestones that's been achieved during the period since we last reported was the completion of the development design, which has now been adopted by the PSG. And attached to this item is the cultural narrative development, which Warren is going to take us through shortly. We're just waiting for the document to appear on the screen in PowerPoint so that the public can see it as well.
Kia ora, everyone. So this is the document put together by Boone, and could we have the next page, please? So these are some of the cultural elements or concepts and ideas that we were looking at towards this project. Myself and Norwine, Te Awiawi were invited into working on this project on behalf of Rangitāne. And throughout this document, you'll see some of the concepts that we looked at. One of the major things that we wanted to really do is to make a link between Poutoa and Te Marae o Hene. As you can see, the pattern work that is done in terms of where the clock tower is all in relation to the tānako form that has been abstracted from the cloak or kaitaka worn by Erene Te Awiawi. So we have this concept here in relation to the idea of weaving together of peoples or using woven concepts, ideas, statements of mana. So on working with this project, I was asked to look for a cultural narrative. The narrative that I sort of fell on was tuia te moka tangata. Tuia te moka tangata comes from a tauparapara. It's a very, very old tauparapara, and it's in relation to the weaving together the bonds of humanity. So weaving together the bonds of humanity. One of the other things that we are doing as Rangitāne is looking at another concept that we have. I'm hoping I have more than 5 minutes to talk because I could be here for a while. The other thing is that the Rangitāne, in terms of our creative team, if you like, in terms of our weavers and carvers, we work under a concept called hiaho tangata, or the human threads that bind us. So I wanted to use a concept that was in line with this, but also we need to think about what this complex is about. This complex isn't about just Rangitāne. This is about a civic complex. It is about all people, about all community. So weaving together the bonds of humanity, I feel, works very well here. So, in terms of a lot of the cultural narrative and as well as the cultural expression, what we've tried to look at is cultural expression that works with the concept of weaving together of peoples. So, if we go to the slide 3, please. Not next one. Yes. Up in the corner there is a wharenui. This wharenui was first built in the 1880s over in the Wairarapa area at Te Oriori. As you can see inside the maho there, or in the porch where everyone is standing, there is a pattern on the wall there, which is in reference to tukutuku panels. These particular ones are potama. Now, the idea of using the potama from this whare as a symbol speaks to the idea, again, of a woven concept or a type of binding together. So tukutuku panels in tradition are used in the wharenui, and the way they are created is to form a panel which becomes part of the structure of the building. But also I wanted to use the symbolism to represent Poutoa. Poutoa originally came from the other side of the range into this area. So to pick up on a cultural symbol that relates to Poutoa himself, I looked at this wharenui and also the idea of potama. Potama pattern when you look at it, there's many different ways of viewing this pattern, but this, within tradition, everything's actually in the name. The potama is in a step form. The first part of that step moving upward is the po. The short step at the top is the tama. The po being the idea of leadership, guiding the tama or the younger ones. It's about support. So I felt this is what the symbolism should show in terms of Rangitāne being the kaitiaki of the whare, as well as being the leadership, if you like, or the support to the community. So the interior of the whare, which we'll see later on, actually in terms of the maho, will have expressions of potama in it. In this case, it won't be a woven pattern, it'll be a pattern that is more strongly symbolic of it. Now, out the front of the whare will be a marae atia. The atia has been done in an abstract form, reaching out to the pattern done underneath the clock tower to make a link between the marae atia here at this whare to the marae or te marae o hene in the middle of town. So that is in the next slide, if we can go to the next one. As you can see, this is a floor plan. You'll see where the pattern is, or the tāneko is guiding you towards the front or to the maho of the wharenui. Again, being tāneko, it is a strong mana statement that is done through the use of fibre. Again, being woven, relating back to the concept of tuia te moka tangata. So this pattern has been expressed again. So if we go to the next slide, you can see the pattern above. It's been abstracted again, and in this point it is part of the ceiling form. And we've tried to kind of in some ways use it as a way of showing direction into the complex itself, but also to reinforce this idea of the weaving together of cultures or peoples or humanity. I'm going to try and be brief here because I know I don't have a lot of time. Can we go to the next slide, please? In this slide, you'll see the interior of the whare. The idea was, because it's a contemporary form of what a whare nui is, we've had to make a few adjustments or a few compromises, if you like. So in some ways, we've tried to give the idea of there being ipa and also popo. And popo are the stronger coloured forms on the wall side. Some of these we've done as windows. But in between those, the most important part is the idea of tāneko. And these tāneko forms, in this is a placeholder. It's not actually the form we're going to use. But the idea was again to reinforce the idea of the weaving together of peoples. Each one of these panels will be done within the traditional manner, but in some cases we may need to use some contemporary ways of creating them. But the idea is to turn it into a wānanga, to bring back the idea of teaching our young ones the art of tukutuku panels, or the weaving together of these, or the binding together. Again, another aspect of the idea of weaving together of peoples, or relationships, bonds of humanity. So if we go to our next one, our next slide, As you can see, the maho there. I've tried to keep away from the idea of having this house fully carved. There's a number of reasons for that, which I won't totally go into here. But one carved form that I will talk about is the kōreru, which is at the top of the apex there, which will symbolise tāne nui ārangi, and also remind us of our place on the whenua, but also to remind us of being kaitiaki of this place. There's a potahu that comes down from the kōreru to the ground. On the potahu, I've used some imagery which goes back to our very early period. This imagery is symbols that denote forms of whakapapa, which I will not go into at this point. It's a bit gets complicated. Now, the other is that the house will be in a colour that relates to our traditional colour, which is kokowai. I've just recently found out we have a good source of kokowai, and it might be a good opportunity to be able to revive the art form of making kokowai, or as a paint, if you like. Can we go to the next slide, please? In this image here, you can see that the potahu, and you can see where the notching forms are created. So it'll, I don't want to go too much into that, we'll be here for too long. But the side part here shows a plan view of the maho, or the entrance into the whare. Now the maihi, which is in the lighter colour, moving towards the that little dark square, which is the potahu. Instead of having the maihi, or the front of the building, being quite flat, we've pulled it forward, and we pulled it forward for one reason. One of those reasons is that it will be pointing towards our maunga, and one of our most important elements that is strong for us culturally. Can we go to the next slide, please? There's going to be 3 po. These also are a kind of a placeholder. The idea of these 3 po are to talk about different stages of pautoa, from one being a small village, if you like, when it was first established, to becoming a larger one, and then to the point where it was burnt down in 1819. Now, the po there with the figure on top is symbolic of pautoa. These 3 po will be there to strategically guide you towards the maraiatia, or to the tumakanga. The carved one at the end there is of pautoa. He'll be the last one in that line, and he will be looking directly at the whare itself to give direction for the manuhiri when they come into this space. So, if we go to the next slide, this slide here is showing the way the mahi are moving forward rather than being flat, and giving a sense of direction towards the maunga. The other is showing how the potama pattern will have a feel inside the maho itself. And at this stage, I'll leave it at that. Kia ora.
Great. Thank you, Warren. Thanks, Kathy. No further comments from you, Kathy? Fine, great. All right, are there any questions from colleagues? Councillor Naylor.
Thanks. My questions relate to the paper, not the presentation. Are you wanting just questions on the presentation or also?
No, well, the paper and the presentation are together, yeah.
So my questions relate to page 33 of the papers. There is, this relates to the April the 29th steering group meeting, and under point 7 there was reference to a cost-benefit analysis report that was done by Neil Anderson and Lawrence McIlrath from Market Economics, and I just haven't been able to locate that report. I'm just wondering if that can be shared, or where we'd find that. I know the June meeting and March meeting minutes were sent out, but I haven't seen anything from the April meeting.
Yes, certainly, Councillor. I was actually on leave during that period, and I had assumed that the minutes and attachment had gone out, but if that hasn't the case, I apologise, councillors, and I will circulate that.
Lovely, thank you. And I also just wanted to ask around page 42. So just catching up on some of the minutes, which is good to have them included. The brand development, I'm just wondering how the brand, is that proceeding and how's that being funded?
So at the moment, the brand development won't proceed but past the initial concept stage, which was the project steering group giving indication to need of the things that needed to be considered. And the reason for that is the brand and the positioning of the site will be under the CCO, and it's really important that the CCO is involved in that brand development. So we're really at a point that until we have got initial establishment of the CCO underway, there's no point us developing a brand that we hand over to somebody and then say, here you go, run with this brand. Yeah. So what we've done at this stage is just identify the elements, but we won't proceed with procurement. Now, in relation to your question about funding of the brand development, that will be via the operational budget that's associated with the development of the CCO and the set-up costs for getting the facility up and running, quite separate to the capital cost associated with the development of the facility.
Yeah. Thank you. And just my final question relates to that operational cost, which I think was detailed in a report quite some time ago. I'm just wondering if that has been updated at all. I think we looked at it during the long-term plan. I'm not sure if I've seen anything in the last year or so. Has the assumptions for what the operational grants will be going forward been clarified or updated in any way? Or if not, where would we find that information? I've personally had some questions from the community recently about what that is, and there's been some numbers bandied around that I don't think are correct. So I just thought it would be useful to understand the correct information on that one.
Yes, absolutely. So at the end of December, we circulated version 2 of the business case, which included those costs. Since that date, minor changes have been made for that business cost in line with our application to RIF. And the only changes that were made is that RIF asked us to look at a less conservative scenario in terms of attendee numbers. They felt that in our application we were on the conservative side, and so Steve and the team looked at what another scenario might look like. Those are the only changes to that original business case that have been made at this stage in relation to those operational costs.
Thank you. And where would we find the version 2 of the business case?
That was circulated to members, but again, I can circulate the updated version that has the scenario 2 in it. There's not much of a change there, but we can circulate that to you.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
All right. Is there anything further from... All right. Steve, anything you want to add from your side online?
Kia ora tato. Thanks, Grant. Probably in terms of key things, obviously we completed developed design, and as part and parcel of that process, we did a full cost estimation. And as Program Director, I'm pleased to say that we're staying right on budget at 15 million, so that was really great. We've also done some quite thorough work with a retail designer, and we're really quite pleased with the early concept design work there as well. So that's been really positive. The resource consent has been submitted. The rest of the project is effectively on hold until we get confirmation from RIF. Probably in the last 6 weeks, I've had 5 or 6 different meetings with Kanawa staff. The feedback's been positive. As Kathy has commented, they asked us to do a more positive scenario on visitation and operational performance, which we did, which they were also pleased to receive. So really it's now sitting in terms of with the politicians, and the latest advice we've had is we should be hearing a response in the next 10 days to 2 weeks.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, thanks. That's all our questions. Thank you, Warren. Thanks, Kathy. So we've now got the recommendation to council update that the committee receives the memorandum titled Te Manawatū o Potoa, Anzac Park Civic Marae and Cultural Centre Programme Update, dated today, the 6th of August 2025. I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Just acknowledge work of officers and Steve in the background in terms of director. Securing the funding is nothing can happen until that's sort of in the bank per se. So at the Rangitāne and the external money has been raised. We're waiting for that RIF or government fund. And then there is another couple of irons in the fire for other external money as well. So it's looking positive, but we can't do anything really until that was our contract with the community. So we'll be waiting for that. So thanks for the work, Warren, around the cultural narrative and certainly the weaving together of peoples. I really like that concept. I think it's very much of a place of peoples coming together. It's a site of huge significance for Rangitāne and the city as well. So it's a good coming together. Okay, if we have no further comments to it, I've prompted the Deputy Mayor.
Tēnā koe, Your Worship, o tira, tēnā koe pāweri mai nau anoi, whakawātea i a tātou ma te karakia, no reira tēnā koe, o tira, tēnā tātou katoa. Greetings, everyone. I just wanted to make some comments, Your Worship, pertaining to this and having it recorded. It's great to receive this report and hear that more funding has been sourced since we last met, and also that we won't have too long to wait until we hear about the latest, I suppose, deliberation by the Minister Potaka. And I too want to thank the officers and the team, Steve and the team behind the scenes who've been, well, not behind the scenes, but working very hard on this project and making it move forward. Ngā mihi ki a koe, Warren, kōrua ko Norwine, ngā kōrua I whiriwhiri ngā mea pairawa, mō tēnei kaupapa whakahirahira. Just like to acknowledge Warren and Norwine for the cultural narrative. And I think that the cultural narrative really fits in well because quite rightly you said that this is a facility that would be for everyone in Palmerston North. So the designs, the patterns, although they have a very strong link to Rangitāne, it's like embracing everyone, and that notion of the tuku-tuku, or tāniko, it looked a bit like tāniko to me, but the tuku-tuku, of weaving that together, people do come together. And I think our community here in Palmerston North have demonstrated that on numerous times. So I just want to congratulate you on coming up with a cultural narrative that's inclusive of everyone. So thank you, everyone. Kia ora koutou.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of the highlights that I just wanted to emphasise in the report is being on the steering group on behalf of council, you get an insight into how much work's happening behind the scenes. This gives the highlights, but actually there's been some tremendous work. I want to reference back to the consent and the work by the officers when we've emphasised the need to open for extended hours into the evening to take advantage of the vista and the city lights, and having an operator that has a lot of flexibility in the hours to make that a real success. So that being one. And then the details that come through in the retail concept designs, we had an insight now of what the outside may look like with the cultural elements, but certainly they're incorporated in the concept design for the internal, and just the functionality and the thought behind that is pretty incredible, using other retail spaces with other significant sites and with high visitation. Having some of those thoughts of the key product lines and the style of presentation, I think equally important. So we're talking about the food operator, but also the retail opportunities, showcasing them to give the profile and prominence that this location deserves. And they're, again, also wanting to reference the efforts for the fundraising and the confidence that we can stand assured that we've got some really good proposition here and some good engagement with the key people, and to have some assurance that that funding shortfall that we put out as a stretch target was actually going to be met, so we can kick this project off in the foreseeable future. So I think that they're all positive stories to tell for our wider community, and I think ultimately the concern was that this is costing too much and we need some third-party contribution. We're standing behind that commitment, but the third parties coming and indicating to themselves that they want to be partnered with something so significant for our city and region. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Wiremu.
I'm just going to give the quotation like I always do on Te Piti Te Awi Awi. Ko kaupapio i te aroha mō koutou e whakaoti. What he's asking our people to walk together, the non-Māori. And I look at our, behind here, the emblem up here, we see Māori and non-Māori working together. And I know in Rangitāne's viewpoint, it is good to see this happening for everyone. So it's big ups, and I don't know where else in the country it's happening like this, but hopefully we're leading the way. Kia ora.
Thank you, Wiremu. Look, just finally before we go to the vote, I was recently in Ireland and I went to the Multicultural Centre, the Irish Ulster American Centre, and it was their version of this, and it had the retail, the food, they had exhibitions, they had tours of historic buildings and structures, and they were telling the story of Irish people leaving Ireland, going to America, and then some coming back, and the combination of peoples coming together. This is very much what this is trying to do as well. So we're heading in the right direction. So thank you to everybody involved, and we'll now look to vote, please. And it's passed 9 votes for, none against. Thank you. All right, moving to number 8, Te Whare Council engagement with the operational, the officer side of things with Rangitāne or Manawatū, and just invite Todd to present, please. Kia ora, Todd. No, it's not on. Oh, the right, sorry, thank you.
Todd Taiepa, Pautoko Apure, Manager Māori Advisory. Tuatahi, tautoko ngā mihi ki a koe te pāpa. Nau rā, ki whakawairoa i tō tātou hui, ki te whakatūwhera te wahana kōrero, nō reira e te matua, nei rā te mihi nui ki a koe. E mihi ana ki te marau hine, hora nei, ko koutou, tērā, Rangitāne, e pupuri nei, ki tōna Māori, te Māori o te whenua, te Māori o te aroha, nō reira, te wikainga, tēnā koutou katoa. Kei a koutou e te kahika, Grant, ngā mihi nui ki a koe, mea koutou hoki nā kaikaunihira. Me o tātou nei kaimahi huri noa, acknowledge also the members of the public present and those online. Huri noa tēnā tātou katoa. Tough act to follow, Warren, with your beautiful kōrero about the progress of Te Motua Poutoa. This is our regular reporting from the Te Whiri Kōkō forum, the monthly forum with Rangitāne, where we provides a strong basis for our ongoing engagement and partnership. This period that we cover is through the 5 meetings. Where are we? March through to July. That period also runs into the end of the financial year and also traverses Puanga Matariki. So it tends to be a period where there's not a lot of initiation of new projects and programs, which is expressed in the feedback. It has been a period, as per usual with the relationship dynamics, where a lot of the material here is updates. So we typically have an initiation phase, which is often as early as possible. But this context here provides some assurance and some sense of assurance to the elected members that the same updates that you're receiving around our major projects and programs are also being fronted to with our iwi partners. In terms of this period, some of the larger programs aren't necessarily always fully encompassed here. We have other processes for that. A good example is local water done well, which has been a significant focus of this council and our iwi partners and iwi from around the region who we'll be working with. So there are a number of other processes for that, but nevertheless we also always have it as a standing item at the Te Whiri Kōkō meetings. So that's all from me in terms of introduction to the paper. I'll leave the rest as read. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thanks. Thank you, Todd. Councillor Isabella.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Kia ora, Todd. I had a question at 219. You've referenced this draft stormwater strategy and that the iwi were given an update regarding our decision to defer that in favour of wider engagement. I just wondered whether, did Rangitāne share a view on that decision or the extended time frame, or was that just an update to say this is what's happened with that?
It's part of a number of conversations around this. So the stormwater strategy, as reflected in the discussion and representation of our elected members recently, it's a fantastic expression of the relationship of Rangitāne with water, with the wider development schema and the strong connection with stormwater, and the way that Rangitāne Nui Rawa, the Rangitāne view of the world, the environment, and the tikanga that go with it, how they see that expressed in terms of a contemporary development stormwater strategy, and I think we certainly appreciate the way that's been articulated, the clarity and the clear sense of aspiration. The deliberation and decision by council, I would characterise it as a desire to ensure that other sectors of the community, that you were getting some clear voices back. So that's, I would characterise the instruction to staff as just sort of to reach out a little bit more into those wider sectors. And my understanding, and the other Rangitāne representatives here who might want to add to that, but is a recognition that's quite within the right of council. Those are key sectors, key parts of our community, especially if this is going to be a resilient and long-term strategy, which water management obviously needs to be. So I know as one of those staff members that will be involved in that process, I'm looking forward to working with that sort of wider community, wider industry perspective, And obviously this, Rangitāne recognise this is certainly will come back to the chamber with this additional kōrero. There's been no question that the council is committed to Rangitāne being at the table and to those principles and views and aspirations being part of the mix. And I understand it's seen as, the absolute right of the council to ensure that all of the voices, which these members need to be in the room, are there. So again, we're looking forward to progressing that. And I suppose almost relating to some of the kōrero that Warren had shared and Matua had shared about that muka tangata, that diversity, something that can kind of strengthen the resolve and commitment in terms of the management of stormwater in the future. So, kia ora.
Thank you. He pate anō, on the paragraph above that, or the section above that, it's about civil defence and emergency management. I just wondered, is that the first time there's been a meeting or an interaction like that, or is this something that's built on previous interactions over time?
No, it hasn't been the first time. I think it certainly stands out during the response to COVID. There was a very strong, and not the first time, but certainly a very strong expression of the partnership and a broad range of initiatives to respond to both the safety issues but also the wellbeing issues of not just Palmerston North, but we were also a key base for extending that out to the wider regions. Off the back of that experience, there's been a lot of work Rangitāne have led with a number of sectors in terms of emergency response, particularly, and the councils will be aware of this, in terms of kai and kai resilience, and especially those sort of critical services that assist whānau who are particularly challenged in terms of access for kai. So as with other regions, Rangitāne and other Māori community sort of leaders, or Rangitāne Māori community leaders have and are now quite actively involved with those organisations, and have also established their own direct responses to that food need. So really aligned with that and a commitment particularly by this Chief Executive to lift the capacity and capability of the Palmerston North City Council, not just emergency team, but our wider response. You'll be aware there's a lot of us, additional staff have been trained, are going through a lot of sort of experiential and skills-based work and getting our tickets, if you like. And as part of that, we do see the partnership with Rangitāne as critical, but possibly more importantly, Rangitāne have identified they, as other iwi, have always and continue to express or respond to need, not just in terms of their own iwi members or the Māori community, but indeed the wider community. So I understand that this does symbolically represent, I think, quite a distinctive lift in that relationship. So as our strength has grown, we're wanting to, and just to kind of wind it up a bit, but I think provide a more aligned relationship with Rangitāne. So for example, there's been some great work done between the Swiftwater Rescue team and some of the Rangitāne operational teams, but we really haven't humbly built the actual relationship, the formality of the partnership, so that we can get into some joint training and joint strategic work. And similarly, we would like to get to a point where Rangitāne felt very aware of how our operational dynamics work, and if they were present with us in Te Aonui, in our operations centre, they would feel as comfortable and confident as our staff in that space and our other partners. So while it isn't unique, I think it does identify the building, I think, of a real partnership in that space. Kia ora.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd.
Danielle.
Just in terms of the draft water storm strategy, we're comfortable with the delay and the fact that it's got to go out for community consultation, long as it remains authentic to our priorities and aspirations. Just to reiterate what Todd said, the relationship in the civil defence space has been quite long. Our marae is actually one of the civil defence sites for the city. I'd just like to briefly talk about the delegation to China, because I had the great fortune of going on that trip, which we resourced ourselves. And I just want to acknowledge the Mayor's leadership in that space. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. We gave a great presentation on our city, so did Jerry Sherman from CEDA. It's quite clear that the Chinese people and the businessmen that we engage with have a lot of respect for Grant. And he's been doing some great work over there to bring investment and economic opportunities to our city. I don't think our ratepayers kind of see the value sometimes of trips and relationships like this, but they take a long time to build up, and once you develop that credibility, then I think the benefits will flow. So I thought it was a great trip for our city, and it strengthened our relationship with Rangitāne. So great acknowledgement to your leadership, because I know you're the president of the that forum as well. So I just wanted to mention that in this space. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Todd. That's our questions done. So, colleagues, we have a recommendation there to the committee that the committee receive the memorandum titled Te Whiri Koko, Council Engagement with Rangitāne on Manawatū, dated today, 6th of August 2025. Happy to move that, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Look, I think it just shows the depth and breadth of all the work that's going on. It's enormous, and I think it's quite good to document it too, because a lot of it is operational, and as elected members, we sometimes don't see the interaction going on behind the scenes. Look, it just happens. It's natural, it's seamless, and the work just carries on. So acknowledge everybody that's involved. All right, we'll vote on that, please. All right, that has passed 9 votes for and none against. All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping before we close. Number 9 is around the committee work schedule. We've completed everything on that. That's on page 65, and obviously the new term, or the new term of council to determine what is happening for this committee, or this work program, or the programs of work in this committee in the next term. So look, I'll just move the recommendation that we accept the work schedule. It's fairly academic. Look for a second to thank you to the Deputy Mayor. That Rangitāne Manawatū Committee received the work schedule today, August the 2025. If there's no commentary, we will vote, please. And that has passed 9 votes for and none against. Thank you. I'll now ask Wirema if we could close our proceedings or karakia.
Can I say, Mr. Mayor, it's good to sit down on something good happening for the country and for our city. Inoi tātou. Almighty God, I pray and lift up every person here. Watch over them and keep them safe. We ask for your divine help in our mahi in the future, which we have. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te ata whai tō tātou ariki ehu kraiti. Me te aroha me te atu. Me te whiwhinātai tanga ki te wairua tapu. Ake, ake, ake. Āmene.
Amen.